This is a 2027 name that you need to have on your radars. The folks that I've talked to, I think there's some buzz with Piper in terms of what they're bringing back specifically kind of at the line of scrimmage. And you know what Roman Byers can now do out of the backfield. I think he could be in line for a breakout year.
Hello and welcome to the Bourbon Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm here as always with my good friend Ryan Wallace. And we're talking about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. If you're tuning in, we wanted to say thank you. This episode is our 1-year anniversary show since we first started this thing, and we hoped that we would find an audience as passionate about shining a spotlight on local players, as passionate about college recruiting, as passionate about high school football, especially in this area as we were. And thanks to you guys, we've found just that. Over the weekend, we took in the KC Elite 7-on-7 at Mill Valley, always a great collection of talent and a chance to see some of the top teams around the area. We'll have breakdowns and interviews, including one with Kansas quarterback commitment Jaylen Mason and one with one of our favorite sleepers in the Kansas City area, Olathe East athlete Benji Burton from that event. We'll have that later in the show. As always, if you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, or leave us a review, a 5-star ranking, wherever you get your podcasts like Apple or Spotify. Of course, we have our own specific audio channel through KCSN on Apple or Spotify now, so we should be a little bit easier to find over there. Once again, we appreciate you guys helping us grow and getting us in front of more people like you. Ryan, we don't have any local commitments this week, so Kansas sits on 19 commitments, Kansas State 16, and Missouri 10. We will continue to update those totals and, as always, analyze each and every commitment as they come in. Instead, it's time to go ahead and reveal our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. Tacos for Life has a wide variety of options to choose from in their scratch kitchen and locations in 8 states, including right here in the Kansas City Metro on both the Kansas side in Overland Park and the Missouri side in Blue Springs. And for every taco, rice bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos that you enjoy, a meal is donated to Feed My Starving Children on a meal-for-meal basis. Those meals are then shipped to more than 90 countries, to feeding centers, care points, orphanages, schools, and refugee camps. It's a great cause, and you can help just by doing what we all know and love, which is chowing down on some great tacos. Every week, we'll pick a Tacos for Life Player of the Week, and this week's honor, Ryan, goes to one of our favorites in Blue Valley Northwest star, Ayden McGibboney. Ryan, before we bring Ayden on to talk about this, let's you and I kind of talk about what makes him such a strong player.
Well, I mean, I think that you could make the case that this is as much kind of a deserving award for Ayden in the here and now as it is us honoring kind of a career achievement for him. And the achievement being that, you know, he just committed to Central Missouri State to go there and be a football player. And you flash back 2-3 years ago when we were first introduced to him, he was a basketball only kid, basketball first kid. And, you know, you can go out to Blue Valley Northwest and still watch him hoop. I would imagine he'll be doing that again this winter because he's got like a real silky smooth jumper. I mean, he's got all sorts of like tricks up his sleeve and turnaround jumpers. I mean, look at, I love that play there, just how the finesse, and he's just a sharp player, you know, a team leader on a Blue Valley Northwest program. And I think that kind of says all you need to know about, you know, the level of basketball player that he is. I mean, he was getting some collegiate looks, if I'm not mistaken, for hoops. So you think about that kind of side of him, and coming in, I believe he came in from Topeka, moved into Blue Valley Northwest, and was kind of thought of as like, you know, a basketball kid that was going to play some football. Stop if you've heard that before, because here we go. Clint Ryder has developed another one. And each year it seemed like you would see Ayden on the football field. And I remember watching him as a sophomore, and there were glimpses there, right? Like you just knew that there were the way that he could, react to the ball, the way that he was snatching it out of the air, a lot of obviously the vertical leap, that ability, the catch radius, things that transitioned well from the basketball court to football. And you thought, man, if he ever wanted to be a football player, he could. And then finally last year, I felt like watching him and going back and diagnosing the tape, you really saw him come into his own. And it'll be curious to hear him tell us when he really decided, like, I'm going to be a football player. But Kevin, I thought watching him last year, watching these clips, you really started to see a player that, again, was understanding more of the route tree, was understanding how to find the open space and get open for his quarterbacks. And the other thing that I'll finish with, Kevin, and get your thoughts on is I think we wanted to spread some love to Ayden and for Ayden because he has just kind of quietly gone about his own development and getting his own name out there, despite, first it was, Gavin Hoffman, right? And then it was, Andrew Babalola at times and Brock Heath. And, last year you could even say Trevor Garlington. And now this year, things are starting to move on to Baron Marshall a little bit in terms of like the buzz, so to speak. And yet there's Ayden McGibboney, who, again, you talk to Blue Valley Northwest coaches, Coach Ryder will tell you, like, he's kind of been the steady Eddie. And I'm excited to watch him because Baron Marshall might be the next big thing for Blue Valley Northwest. But I think Ayden McGibboney is this year's thing. And I think he's going to be the leader in that locker room offensively. And I think he's going to be the guy that, again, scouts might not always look at him, but I think that locker room and that offense now looks to him, which again is kind of this culmination of him being a basketball guy and now commanding the football field. It's been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, there's different phases of multi-sport athletes, right? When we talk to coaches, they point at a guy and they're like, that's the basketball kid that's out here for football. And they're excited because sometimes there's some height there, there's some athleticism there, but ultimately you don't know how that guy's going to take to football. And with Ayden, I think we've watched him evolve sort of from the basketball kid who was playing football and was still mostly a basketball kid doing basketball things on a football field to Ayden's a football player. He is a true multi-sport athlete at this point. I loved your point about understanding how to run routes. I think that made the athleticism play up even more when we watched him than it had in the past. The fact that he understood how to set up a defender before making his cut, that was something I think we both noticed when watching him last year. And to your point, every time we've seen him, he's gotten better, Ryan, and he's gotten better, and he's gotten better. And so I think we're gonna see Blue Valley Northwest again this year. Certainly one of the most talented teams in the state of Kansas. It would not surprise me again if we go out and we see Ayden and we say, okay, Ayden's significantly better than we saw him last time. And I think because of that, I think there's still some upside for him when you talk about colleges taking him at the next level as a guy that is still growing and is still becoming a better football player.
Well, and that's the thing. I think when you project him to the next level, I'm really excited to see how he's utilized in college because he lists himself at about 6'3", 190. Seeing him in person at Mill Valley without pads, I think come the fall when you put the helmet, the cleats, strap the pads back on, this is a kid that not only is going to look more like 6'3", 210, but then he kind of plays with like another inch. Like, to me, he plays like he's 6'4", 220 at times. And so I think whether it's as a receiver and maybe kind of an untraditional slot that, you think of slots as undersized, like sneaky, quick guys. Ayden, I feel like, is almost kind of like that slot, almost like what we would call like a big skill. He's not quite a tight end, but he can be a great safety valve and go over the middle and still kind of create some things in space and after contact where he can be, again, a good safety valve and a quarterback's best friend. And Kevin, I should also say this for anybody out there watching that's thinking, well, I guess I'll never be a Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week because my name's not Ayden. This was totally coincidental, folks.
This was not planned.
Was Ayden Wilhelm last week, Ayden McGibboney this week. We promise I don't think there are any other Aidens out there that'll be best role player of the week, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we shouldn't make promises we can't keep because there might just be another Ayden out there. But have no fear. If your name is not Ayden, we are still looking
yes,
at you, and you still have a chance to win this.
yes.
And without further ado, here is our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week, Ayden McGibboney. Ayden, thanks for stopping by.
Yes, sir. Of course. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Ayden, you committed to Central Missouri in the last week. What stood out to you about the Mules throughout the recruiting process and got you to that point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this announcement?
Really just the relationships. So Coach Maley, he's been with me he's been contacting me since basketball season the last year, which a lot of schools were, but I just really grew a bond with him. I think even after the first call with him, he just told me a little bit about his background, and so like I just feel like it was more familiar with me, compared to a lot of coaches, because like I was a big basketball guy and I still am, but Coach Maley actually went to college to go play basketball. And then and then after a year, he decided, he was like, kind of what I had to tell myself, like there's a lot of 6'3" guards out there. So, and I probably knew my ceiling. He knew his ceiling was higher in football. So then he decided to play a year at JUCO, and then went to Washington State, went and killed it, and played like 5 years in the league. And I just feel like that's something that could be in my future. And then definitely, I mean, there's not a lot of coaches you can say that play in the NFL. Like a lot of coaches have that on their resume. So that really stood out with me. And I mean, I've always had Coach Hawk is constantly always texting me, and then Maley, and then tight ends Coach Graham too. It's always constant love. And the thing that stood out about me, it was never about just football. And they would ask me about basketball, how I was doing, just daily checkups every 2 days. Like they would just always text me, and I just always had the most love from them. And then they obviously want to do like what I love is get the ball and receive and score touchdowns, and they obviously pass the ball out the most out of any Division II program. So love that. But yeah, those are really the things that stuck out to me for sure.
Ayden, how long did it take you? Because when you kind of moved into Blue Valley Northwest, again, like watching you for football, it was like he's pretty good at football, but I know he's kind of a basketball guy. How long did it take you to convince yourself, or Coach Ryder and that staff to convince you, like, you should really embrace football? And was there a moment that you knew, man, I think maybe this might be my path?
I'd probably say definitely this past year. Definitely this past year for sure. Trying to think of a moment. I mean, I would probably just say I would say going back and watching my own film and really watching myself. I think like me going out there the past 3 years and playing varsity all years, like I never really did training or anything. And I was like, I mean, if I'm doing this, I can't imagine what I'm going to do in college or even this my senior year, because I just started training with Israel Watson, who played for the Chiefs for a little bit, and then Malik's he played tight end at UCM, and I've been training with both of them, and they've really been like touching me up on a lot of my stuff. And I feel like once I just lock in on football, my potential's out the roof. So I feel like I can. In football, the ceiling, like there's no ceiling at all, I don't really think. In basketball, I feel like basketball's my whole thing. I love basketball. Like I'm never gonna fall out of love with it, but I just feel like you got to be a different type of. I mean, I played Nike League last summer. I played in the Puma circuit this year. Like you got to be different to go where you want to go in basketball. So I mean, but yeah.
We talked just before you got on here about how every time we see you, you've improved. You've taken a step forward. There's something that you've developed in your game. What do you think's the next step for you? What have you been working on that you're kind of like, man, I can't wait for Friday nights because people are going to notice that this is different about me this year than it was last year?
I'd probably say like being like more fluid on my routes, really, really enhancing, like breaking down, and then at the top of my routes, not saying my routes were terrible, because I mean I obviously got open, but I mean really just comeback routes, just adding more to the route tree this year, because we're gonna pass the ball a lot, so a lot of just really the top of my routes. And then I mean I'm obviously a go get it type of guy, but I think more opportunities of that, and then also I probably say yards after catch, because a lot of my film is a lot of just big time catches for a lot of yards, and I think this year like catch a hitch and then make a huge play out of that. So I think a lot of yak this year for sure. Gotta got to get that. So I'd probably say Yak and just more smooth routes and getting even more open than I do. So.
How excited are you for this senior season? Because it seems like everything's kind of been working itself to this point for you. You had, you had Trevor Garlington last year that was kind of like the leader amongst that room, so to speak.
Sure.
And obviously you had Gavin Hoffman the year before that. And now obviously Barron Marshall is there and nobody's going to overlook Barron, but
not at all.
It's your time too. Does it feel like kind of a late coming out party for you, so to speak?
Sort of in a way. Yeah, definitely. I mean, being with those type of receivers these past years has been, I think it's good because there's obviously competition like in the room and you're going against great guys every day and and the advice that's being shared in the room is always great. But I mean, definitely it's going to be a show this year. I'm excited. I don't think people kind of looked at me. I wouldn't say as a little brother, but kind of like always behind Trev and stuff like that. But I think definitely I'm going to take it away for sure and try to get first team all state, all that. So I think I'm definitely going to show a lot of people what I can do.
Oh, sorry. Ryan kind of talked a little bit about you personally.
Yeah.
What about team goals for this year? What's kind of your goal for Blue Valley Northwest, and what are you guys talking about? Because you seem to have one of the more loaded teams in the state of Kansas this year.
For sure. I mean, obviously you want to win EKL. That's a big thing. I mean, we know, our biggest competition is going to be Aquinas for sure. That's the team that, we haven't beat them in a while. So, but definitely probably beating them and then, so winning EKL and then beating Gardner, hopefully, and then just making it to state and as far as we can. I mean, I feel like this, I don't think there's a ceiling on this team too. Like, I think we'll wow a lot of people. So, because we got a lot of young guys too. So I think with young guys, you never know what they can do. And so I just think it'll be fun and win EKL, go to state, obviously. And I don't win any games, or don't lose any games at home. But yeah, I would say don't lose any games at home and don't lose to any of the Blue Valley schools. Those are the two big things for sure.
Those are good things to aim for. I'll finish off with this one with you, Ayden. So when you head up to Tacos for Life, are you going to slide more for maybe some chips and salsa, or you're more chips and queso guy?
I'd probably say chips and salsa, probably. Definitely. Chips and salsa, yeah.
Solid choice.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely.
Well, thanks for coming by, and we'll be sending you and all our future Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week picks a gift card to enjoy the food over at Tacos for Life. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast. We'll continue to do a player profile once a week. We'll aim for the opposite state of the player honored in each week's Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week pick. So, Ryan, who do we have from Missouri this week?
Yeah, I thought that there was not a better week knowing that we had Ayden McGibboney, and his basketball prowess as our Metro Player of the Week earlier, to go to our prospect profile in Kansas City, Missouri, and go with another two-sport athlete out at Truman High School, Roman Rosenbaum. 6'5", 185. And let me tell you, so Roman he's basketball first. And to be quite frank, I think he probably will stick with basketball because he is so good at it. And I actually interwoven spliced together a combination of basketball highlights and football highlights for Roman that we're going to be able to see here. I mean, when he dunks, we're shattering glass. Like, this is a kid that was, I think an all-conference player for Truman in basketball. And, he was the type of guy that teams are trying to take away. But then on football, he's also kind of starting to generate some buzz on both sides of the ball at an all-district level at receiver. And, oh, by the way, he's a 6'5" defensive back. And you see, again, the hand-eye coordination, the vertical leap. This is the type of kid, Kevin, that you just throw it up and Roman Rosenbaum's going to find a way to come down with it. But I think this is, as we heard from Ayden earlier in this very show, I feel like this is a kid that if he wanted to give football a go, I think that somebody out there could find a place for him because he doesn't look out of place on a football field.
Yeah.
Like, is he, doing all the things that you want to see a receiver or a defensive back to do? No. Are there some things there about him that look very raw? Absolutely. But he's a basketball player that's very basketball focused, that is staying, in shape through conditioning and doing all these things with his friends at Truman on the football field. But you cannot deny when you flip the tape on that there is something very, very intriguing about this kid.
Yeah, he's a big, skilled athlete, and you see it at wide receiver. He high points the ball like you would expect a basketball player to. You see it at cornerback, too, and it's actually kind of funny because he can get beat, Ryan, and quarterbacks still have a hard time getting the ball over the top of him. He makes some plays on the ball in the air, and he's a guy that, because of the basketball background, you wonder what exactly the body would do if he wound up focusing strictly on football. And you look at, 6'5", 185 pounds, the length that he has and all of that. Ryan, that's similar size out of high school to what Kansas defensive end Dean Miller was. And Dean Miller, is now 6'5", 245 pounds, second team All Big 12 this past year. Roman's a guy that I think if he got in the weight room, trained strictly for football, kind of left the basketball in his background, would it surprise you to see him grow into a little bit more of like a box athlete type with sort of just traditional weight room growth?
Not at all. And I mean, we've seen this, I feel like, at times before where there's some kids that are maybe a little bit raw that maybe didn't really know quite what their sport was. And then they've decided to go with the football route, and it works. I'm trying to pinpoint the name here, Kevin, at KU from Pembroke Hill, that's still on campus at KU. Quentin Conley is a player that I think, again, was started more basketball, and then as the course of his high school career continued, he started to give football, but it took a while. I mean, before he really gave football, the look that it got. I think about like Blaze Gammon at K-State that was like 6'7" out of Blue Valley West and maybe 200 pounds, right? And then he ends up going to K-State and he plays a little bit and is a meaningful part, I think, of special teams and got involved in some Sunflower Showdowns and ended up being 6'7", like 260, right? And again, a lot of the same things with Roman you saw from some of those guys where they were a little raw. They were fluid enough, but they weren't super stiff, but they were fluid enough. And again, they gave football a chance. There were some coaches that believed in what they could be, and over time, they ended up being collegiate football players. I think if Roman is going that route, though, Kevin, you're going to have to see kind of the basketball thing run its course.
Sure.
Because I do feel like he's got some real ability on the hardwood and will be a player in the Metro come winter that, fans in the gymnasiums are going to flock because they're going to see who's he going to poster this week.
Yeah. He's going to poster guys in basketball. He's going to moss some guys in football this season. So if you don't want to wind up on a football poster, you might not want to be the guy defending him when they decide to throw that ball up for him.
No doubt.
This past weekend, we took in the KC Elite 7-on-7 at Mill Valley, an event that felt even more wide open, I think, Ryan, this year than in previous years. Ultimately, it came down to Blue Valley and St. James for the championship, with the Tigers taking the title for the second consecutive year. And I think a year ago, we probably would have picked Blue Valley, if not as the favorite, certainly one of the favorites at the event, with all the talent on that roster, all the FBS guys on that roster. But this year, I feel like the Tigers came from a little bit more off the radar.
No doubt. I mean, we watched them on Friday, and they had some moments, both good and bad, but leaving Friday, it wasn't the team that I think we would have projected to win. But again, all it takes is you kind of clicking, figuring some things out from Friday, correcting them on Saturday. And yeah, they were doing this tournament without both Lockett twins, Jacob and Jordan. They did not have Grant Westfall, who sounds like it's going to be more baseball focused for him the rest of the way out. We'll see. Maybe he has a change of heart here in August, but he was going to be like Blue Valley's all-time leading receiver statistically. So you think about what they were able to accomplish, knowing that so many of their skill guys were out. It's pretty remarkable. And I think, again, it's a testament to Blue Valley and Coach Terrell and that staff, because it's the minute you kind of want to maybe cross Blue Valley off, right? For like, well, there's going to be a rebuild there. They come right back and win back-to-back at this 7-on-7 tournament that is loaded with players. And Kevin, I want to kind of toss it back to you as we go to a highlight clip here of Taft Stuvey was the guy that it sounds like really carried Blue Valley. I think it sounds like on Saturday to get them to that championship game and ultimately win it. And Kevin, the more I kind of watch Taft, there is a lot to like, I think, about his game, and a kid that I think over the weekend proved to us that he's, as you see here, he's got a lot more athleticism than I think he's given credit for.
Yeah, I agree. And he's somebody that's big enough that you have to worry when he starts going into sort of what coaches would call that sniffer spot, because he can block guys too. But he's not a tight end that is just going to be a safety valve, Ryan. And we saw it, I think, on his very first route in the game that we watched. It was kind of a wheel, a little bit of an out and up that was it gave him a shot to get out vertically. And when you have a tight end like that who can be a legitimate target in the passing game, not it's 3rd and 4, we can throw the ball to this guy for 6 yards, but somebody the defense really has to respect. And I think Taft has that ability that can open up things for a lot of other guys. I thought it was pretty interesting too on Friday when we were there. The Locketts weren't there. And those are obviously some guys that, had they played on Friday, we probably might have thought a little bit differently about Blue Valley, because both of those guys can play a little bit too.
Yeah. And going back to Taft, I just think that, I just clipped highlights of him as a receiver, but as you said, like, his blocking is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I think he proved himself as a real tight end, if not a tight end, an H-back that can do a little bit more at the next level. And remember, his older brother Lincoln's at Arkansas State. His dad was a player for Missouri. There's good bloodlines here. And as the younger brother, that there's a competitive desire in him, and he's got, already a good frame. So I thought Taft really proved himself as somebody to watch this coming season in the 26 class. I also, Kevin, want to talk to you real quick about the team that they, if you want to say upset, because I would consider it an upset the way St. James played over the course of Friday and Saturday. Folks, St. James is going to be a team in the EKL that could sneak up on some folks. We got high on them late last year after we watched that team play early in the season, and you just knew they had some guys that were going to be able to carry them. And they were within striking distance, right, of a state championship berth. But this season, again, another team that we thought maybe a little bit of a roster rebuild. Not so fast, Kevin, because you've got Frank McGibboney out there that can be a quarterback, be that dual threat. If they can get a John Hornback to become the quarterback, it lets McGibboney do what he's best at, which is just run and be a running back. But the trio at receiver of Alec Jett, of Luke Neeson, and Corey Kirchner from the Spring Hill transfer is going to be an absolute beast for EKL defenses to defend.
Yeah, I think you said when we first watched St. James that it feels like they cornered the market on guys who are 6'1" to 6'3", 175 to 185 pounds. They played really great defense as a team too, Ryan. That was something that we noticed. In addition to that group of receivers, McGibboney, like you said, spread the ball around really well, had a really good group of receivers. I think Jett is somebody that when you look at 2026s in particular, and you say, who's somebody that could have a big year that maybe people aren't talking about enough, I think Jett really sort of jumps off the page from that standpoint. Defensively, a lot of guys sort of in the right place at the right time, knowing their assignments, typical Radke football over there, if you will. And I really like this group. And Ryan, it's kind of funny because we talked to Coach Radke while we were there. St. James has some pretty good offensive linemen, too, that you don't get to see in a 7-on-7 setting. So this isn't a team that was going to just be great in 7-on-7, and you're not going to hear from them again. They've got some guys up front this year. St. James actually beat Blue Valley and beat them pretty handily in the winners bracket earlier on Saturday. Blue Valley made it back up through the losers bracket to get a second chance and wound up winning that championship game.
Yeah, the Thunder rolls for sure out at Mill Valley this last weekend, and I'm ecstatic. That place is going to be jumping out there off K7 in week 1 when Bishop Miege finally comes to St. James campus for their first on-campus varsity football game. That place is going to be bouncing for sure.
From Blue Valley, let's go to Blue Valley North, who has a fascinating quarterback battle sort of playing out. And it's interesting because I think we both really like what we've seen from 2028 Braxton Wagner out there at Blue Valley North. At the same time, though, Ryan, Lark Anderson isn't going to hand that job over. He is a guy that we saw it on Friday. Braxton will make a big-time throw. Lark will come right back and make a big-time throw. There are a lot of QB needy teams in Kansas City who would love to have one of those guys. Blue Valley North has 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think either one of these players could start for any team in the EKL, probably any team on the Kansas side of the Metro, and be very good, and that team would be in good hands. It just so happens that Gene Ware and company have to decide between one of them. Odds are they probably go with Lark because he is the senior and the seasoned player. And look, we really liked what we saw, the polish from Lark. I thought he kind of commanded that team when they were going through some of their pregame warmups, like, talking to his receivers, we need you to get here a little bit quicker. Like, the game has really slowed down for Lark, and he's primed for a big time season, probably the biggest season that we've seen out of Blue Valley North quarterback since Henry Martin. So remember the name Lark Anderson, but boy, if you're kind of in the, video game mode, right? NCAA football is big right now. You play it. I'm just not a big gamer, but if there was a high school game for, the Kansas City Metro, and I'm building like a program, like for future years to come, Braxton Wagner might be my quarterback, Kevin. I pulled some clips of Braxton just from this summer and from this past weekend. This is a kid that's going to be a sophomore. And again, I think he still probably needs the tests of the bright lights. What happens when a play breaks down? What happens when he's facing a blitz at the varsity level? But like, there's some things that he's able to do with the football that a lot of sophomores can't do or just don't do in terms of how he led receivers and the placement on the ball where only his guys are going to be able to make the catch. I was blown away. I mean, we're already kind of like throwing gasoline on the Wyatt Erickson bandwagon. I'm ready to start like throwing the coals into the Braxton Wagner train and get that thing going on the tracks. Cause I think that he is got all the tools to be kind of the next big thing at quarterback on the Kansas side that we've been talking about Wyatt Erickson on the Missouri side.
A guy who's a little bit of a train when you try to tackle him, and is also a guy that you are on the fan train for, is Roman Byers Jr. out of Piper. And he was a guy, I think, when we saw him play, a little bit more versatility, Ryan, than I think maybe we thought that he had coming in.
Ton more. When I added him to our lengthy spreadsheet, you and I liked what we saw in terms of like how he was able to be dynamic as a ball carrier, the way that he bounces off contact. He just had a little bit more pop, it seemed like, than anybody else on the field. And so the question coming into last weekend was like, if Roman Byers is here, let's see what he looks like as a receiver. Like, is he the do-it-all, all-purpose kind of back? Yeah, he validated that. The highlights that I pulled of Roman Byers are going to catch your attention here, folks, because it was dynamic catch after dynamic catch for a kid, again, who's, I think, forte for the most part at Piper has been and will continue to be rushing. He made it look easy, Kevin. Again, the body adjustments to the ball. I was blown away by Roman Byers. This is a 2027 name that you need to have on your radars. The folks that I've talked to, I think there's some buzz with Piper in terms of what they're bringing back specifically kind of at the line of scrimmage. And you know what Roman Byers can now do out of the backfield. I think he could be in line for a breakout year.
So I want to go from there. You just brought up buzz, a team that's been a little bit of a mystery team that I feel like we got a little bit more of is Jason Thoren's Lawrence team. And when you look at that squad, Banks Bowen was so much of what Lawrence did a year ago. The ball was in his hands constantly. And I think, we like Taj Edwards at running back. Josh Galbraith wasn't at Mill Valley. But, Ryan, I think we came away a little bit higher on Jason Thoren's Chesty Lions because they could have two really good young quarterbacks. Colt Curry is a little bit more of the pocket passer, showed some really nice things throwing the ball. And the younger of the two, Joey Dooley, is a good athlete that they can do some different things with.
Yeah, and I mean, when you start to combine what those two will be able to do out of the backfield, again, kind of in their own roles, and then you start to think about Bailey Johnson up front, and you mentioned Taj Edwards. Jackson Becker is a receiver that last year we saw Lawrence twice and made some really impressive catches. And again, at that time, you didn't know like how much of that was Banks, how much of that was Jackson. And I think this last weekend we realized, no, Jackson is a player. And also these quarterbacks that are going to be delivering the ball. Again, Lawrence looks like an offense that's got, every bit of fuel that it's going to need. Lawrence is a team. We're really high on Free State, rightfully so. And we've got a lot of time left here in previewing the year that we're going to dedicate to the Firebirds, because I think that there's a good amount of recruiting names and talent that's going to start coming out of Free State, right? But all that said, it makes that city showdown, again, very tantalizing for a second straight year, because I think people might be casting off Lawrence again because of everything that they lost, the transition at head coach. There's a lot still left on that Chesty Lions roster, like you said, Kevin.
And we went to City Showdown last year, and let's talk Free State just real briefly.
Okay.
Because Coach Stewart does look like he has a squad as well. Like Lawrence, this is a team that's got some good linemen that aren't going to show up in the 7-on-7 setting. When you look at Braden Wilmus, who's committed to Clemson, his younger brother Reese picked up an offer from Kansas on the camp circuit. Draven Samuel wasn't there as he continued to heal up. But Ryan, I'm not sure both of us could be any bigger fans of 2027 athlete Madden Brittingham.
Yeah, again, I credit you. You noticed it right off the bat last year in the game at Manhattan, and you said there's going to be a 2027 that we're gonna want to watch a little closely here. Brittingham is just like smooth, and we got a chance to see him play a little bit of defense too at safety. There's just like he's around the ball, like he's just a ball player. I think he's getting faster. I think the game is slowing down for him. Again, we've talked about it already this show, but if you're starting to kind of build like, some breakout candidates and you want to impress your friends heading into games on Friday night, like, this is a team that, I'd keep my eye on, or this is a player I'd keep my eye on. You're going to look really smart if you hitch your wagon to Madden Brittingham right now, because I think he's, again, another kid that if everything goes according to plan, he's going to be another. It seems like we have this at Free State all the time, right? Another one of these kids that's going to have big offensive numbers, and then he's going to, the whistle will blow. He'll go over to free safety and put up equally big numbers on defense too. That's going to be a player that college staffs are going to probably struggle with what position they like him at more. But either way, he's going to be a college player here in 2 years.
Finn Moore, the younger brother of now Wyoming linebacker Parker Moore, is another two-way guy, plans to play quarterback, did some good things there, I thought, also played some safety. And Ethan Prescott has been a playmaker for the Firebirds as well. A guy we didn't get to see play, Ryan, but definitely made an impression on us, was the 27-year-old version of Reggie Reese, I will call him, because Reggie Reese was a guy that we did not recognize. And I was at, full disclosure, I was at the scrimmage between Mill Valley and Derby and Staley out there the previous day as well. Reggie didn't play, had a little bit of a hamstring issue right below the knee. We saw a guy out there running time, did not recognize Reggie Reese. We thought he was a former player, come back, 25-year-old guy. That is a guy that's not going to be fun to tackle this year, right?
Yeah, he was, our face was like the emoji with like the eyeballs that were this big when we realized who it was. We've talked to Reggie Reese in person. We've stood face to face with him many times. And it was as if we had talked to a middle schooler last year and we were talking to, Derrick Henry come home from like NFL training camp this year. If he is listed at 6 foot, 195 or no, scratch it. This kid looked 6'2", 235 pounds and not an ounce of fat on him. I would hate to be a defender that has to try and stop Reggie Reese this year, because not only are you going to have to worry about tackling Reggie Reese, but to get to Reggie Reese, you're probably going to have to go through or around LaMarcus Barber. Yep. And the two of those guys combined make one of the most physically impressive duos that we will see on the Kansas side, probably Kansas or Missouri for that matter, this fall. It just a wrecking ball, Kevin.
And when Reggie gets tired, they've got Max Piva to put back there in the backfield and have him run around. Two guys that we interviewed that I want to talk about real quickly as players before we kind of get into those interviews, Ryan. Benji Burton at Olathe East is a guy that you've been high on for quite a while. And he's a guy that obviously put up some terrific testing numbers as well. We got to see him play both offense and defense. Where do you see him playing out at the next level?
I think he's a future safety. I really like him as a safety. I think particularly like a strong safety. I think he's a really high upside athlete in terms of like, can he be a free safety that can cover sideline to sideline? And you start thinking about maybe some of the next gear that a lot of those receivers might have. I don't know if that would be the best for him, but I think when you look at his body type and the frame, the wingspan that he has, and you start thinking about the weight that he can put on, like, he's going to be ideal for, again, we talk about big skill or this modern era tight end. Benji Burton's going to be able to handle that with ease. You can bring him down into the box. I think he's going to become more and more comfortable in terms of being a run stopper, being up along the line of scrimmage. I think he's going to develop into a terrific strong safety. I'm begging you, coaches, to give this kid a look out over at Olathe East. I think you're going to like what you see. We've talked about it before as one of our players that was featured in a prospect profile already this summer, this offseason. Just, again, another one of those guys you're going to want to flip the tape on here week 3, week 4. Cue up Olathe East and watch Benji Burton go to work.
There are a few players in the state we're more familiar with than Jaylen Mason that we've seen pretty much at every stage of his career since he hit high school. Ryan, this is the best I think we've seen him to this point, and it wasn't necessarily just the way that he played. It was the confidence, the way he carried himself, the poise. All of those things have to encourage Kansas fans when looking at Jaylen Mason being their quarterback take in this class.
He was so good, and I know it's easy for fans and folks to cast off what 7-on-7 is, and like, who cares if you look good or bad? It's just 7-on-7. But again, specifically from a quarterback, you can pick up a ton through 7-on-7. Again, how they're processing, the way that they're making reads and, shaking things off or, trying to bait guys. Like, he was the real deal, made every single pass imaginable. I was just immensely impressed. And like, we knew that was who Jaylen is now, but like, I think he validated himself when you see him do it in person and doing it with such ease, Kevin. And like you said, such a command, not only of the pocket, but like of his own sideline, the way that he's coaching, the way that he's keeping guys like in it and motivated and positive. Like, he's going to be great, if nothing else, for the Kansas locker room. But I think the more we see of him, like, this is a kid that's going to compete to get on the playing field in the Big 12, the way that he continues to progress as a passer.
Yeah, one of the things that you love seeing in these situations is when you get a guy into a 2-minute drill. We had a chance to see Jaylen in that drill, and he led Wichita Northwest right down the field for a touchdown. They didn't get the 2-point conversion to tie it, so they wound up dropping the game, but he did lead them right down to get that winning score. And Ryan, I'm not sure his blood pressure went up one iota that entire drive.
No, just so cool, so collected. A great interview too, and something else. Hey, you guys tune into this show to learn about the next big thing, right? We're always giving you bait and telling you different guys. We've already told you about guys this show. Hey, how about another name in Wichita Northwest, Kevin?
All right.
How about another one? Let's. Why are we gonna like keep this in our bag for our own like pleasure? Let's get it out. Let's just get it out. And I'm not gonna go quite into the detail that we could. All I'm gonna say is the amount of hype that we're hearing already out at Wichita Northwest. And again, folks, if you're regulars to this show, you know about the roster that Wichita Northwest that we already knew about, right? Like, the names that are regular names. Burton. Burton. That's the name. If you've never heard of him outside of Wichita, you're not alone, because he's a freshman. Burton.
2029.
Burton.
We are bringing you,
I will leave it at that.
on this show, guys who have yet to play for their high school varsity team, but do not be surprised if you hear that name quite a bit more. And I'm not saying he's going to get the offers immediately, because I think there were some things that led to Barron Marshall getting those offers so quickly in terms of sharing a roster with a 5-star guy and Andrew Babalola that everybody was going to go see. But I do think this is going to be sort of the Barron Marshall of that class in terms of emerging early, people trying to decide, hey, how long can we sit before we decide to make a move on this guy? Wichita Northwest has had some pretty good ones, Breece Hall being among them. I'm not putting him in that category yet. He hasn't played a down of football at the high school level yet, but I do think that when guys start to pick up that kind of hype at Wichita Northwest, you can usually kind of put it in the bank, and it usually winds up playing out that way.
When Burton starts to erupt, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, you folks just remember KCSN and verbal commitment. Burton.
We had it here first, and we will be right back with those interviews from KC Elite 7-on-7 at Mill Valley after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
This is the Verbal Commitment Podcast. Friday and Saturday, Mill Valley hosted the annual KC Elite 7-on-7 tournament where we caught up with Kansas commitment Jaylen Mason. He talked about the 7-on-7, his relationship with Kansas offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Jim Zabrowski, and his goals for this season. Check it out. So we're out here at KC Elite 7-on-7 at Mill Valley. How do you feel like you guys are playing so far?
I think we're playing pretty good. Just took a tough loss here, but I think we'll bounce back next game, and we'll be right back to where we were the games before that.
Coach was talking about you guys don't usually do the 7-on-7 circuit.
We don't.
So what are you trying to pick up and get better at while you guys are out here?
Really we have a whole new offense implemented this season, so we're all trying to get all on the same page and implement all of our new plays and things like that.
You guys have a really good group of receivers. Some of those guys aren't here yet. You guys get Baker, I think, tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
How excited are you for that? To have him for the knockout round.
I'm excited. He's going to be a big key piece for us tomorrow. Definitely missed him today.
What are your guys' expectations for this year?
State championship, no doubt.
Well, why? I mean, I get why state, but what makes you think, hey, this is the year for Wichita Northwest?
I mean, all the talent we have here, the work we've been putting in. I think we're not close to where we want to be yet, but we're putting in that work every day. So that's the one goal. That's the one goal for us.
Now you're coming off an injury. Was it something in your hand, a bone? What was it?
My hand. I broke my some bone in my hand. Yes, sir.
Was it your throwing hand?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
It happened basketball?
Yes, sir.
Did you get a chance to go out to KU at all this summer? Or?
Yes, sir. I took my official visit on June 6th through the 8th.
With all the commits and everybody there. What was that like? Because I know you guys, you have the group chat. You guys are all pretty close in there. So
it was a great time. We all bonded. We all hung out a lot. We all got pretty close that week, and it was a great weekend.
Who's the funniest guy in the group chat?
Funniest guy in the group chat? I need to think probably JJ or Caden, something like that.
Caden, I think, said Jack Oots is
Jack is funny too. Yeah.
Is maybe one of the guys.
Yes, sir.
I know we talked to you after you made your decision, but sort of again, why did you pick Kansas? What was it about?
Just the love. It just felt like home every time I went up there. All the coaches are so normally like a big amount of love. So, and I want to rep my state on a big stage nationally. So always been a dream of mine.
I know you went to camp, you worked out in front of Coach Zabrowski before they wound up offering.
Yes, sir.
How has that relationship grown, since you've been a commit and since you've had more chances to talk to?
It's going pretty good. We've gotten pretty close. He's come on a couple of home visits to talk to me and my family, things like that. I love Coach Z. He's a great guy, and I'm glad that he'll be my coach when I get there.
What does he say he likes about you?
Like my size, work ethic, leadership, things like that. It's overall just like more of like the leadership aspect.
You excited to have him as the offensive coordinator and calling those plays as well?
Yes, sir.
What about that?
Everything. I'm just excited. He's just like I said, he's a guru when it comes to this. So I'm excited to develop under him and just learn everything that I can.
What games this year are you really looking? I know everybody says, hey, it's the next one. But I know you got a game or two circled on that schedule where you're kind of like, this is one that has a little bit of extra for me.
Yes, sir. Definitely the Manhattan game.
Okay.
2 losses from last year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Will you be picking on J.J. Dunnigan that game, or will you maybe stay away from his side?
Yeah, that's an open man. Yes, sir.
Jaylen, I was going to ask you, we watched you as a freshman behind Avery.
Yes, sir.
Where do you feel like you've grown the most since you got out there with Mays that freshman year?
I think the mental aspect, like back then I was really more reliant on my athleticism and things like that. So now I feel like I'm understanding the game more and able to like make the right reads, pre-snap reads, things like that, post-snap reads.
Is there somebody, we talked about Griffin, we talked about, obviously we've known about Trace Carter for a long time, John Michael. Is there anybody that on Wichita Northwest that we need to be talking about, that fans should need to know about? Maybe this is the fall for him to break out?
Our freshman, he's gonna be a dog. His name's Burton. He's gonna be a dog.
Okay, remember the name. I gotta ask you, how excited are you to finally step foot in the new booth? Being able to, when you commit, you see the plans for it and everything, but how pumped are you to finally get back there this fall?
I'm excited. I think the energy is going to be unmatched, definitely. I'm excited to get up there. I'm going to try to make probably every old game.
And then I don't know if we've ever asked you this before or anybody else, but what uniform combination are you the most excited to don when you get to Lawrence? Is there one that you're really excited about?
I like the powder blues. Those are my favorite, and really all of them are all amazing. I like the powder blues and then probably the blacks.
Last one from me. When you got in on the ground floor with this class, I know you said it was important to rep for the state and be kind of a builder of this class. Did you ever expect that it would be the class that it's become?
I honestly, I knew it would be special, but it's very special. It's very special, and I'm glad that we have this. We're building this. We're getting KU back going.
That was Kansas commitment Jaylen Mason, one of our favorite local sleepers. Also took the time to talk to us in Olathe East, Benji Burton. Here's what he had to say about his recent strong camp performance and his recruitment at this point.
Back at KC Elite 7-on-7 here in Mill Valley, we are with Benji Burton, one of our prospect profiles from a couple weeks ago. First off, let's just ask about the competition today. How do you feel like the Hawks are faring today?
We started out a little slow, but I was expected. A lot of us we don't have a lot of returners, especially on defense, so we're getting the hang of things. And each game we've seen a lot of improvement. So I think these next 2 games we're in good shape.
I was talking to Coach Porter, and it sounds like you're going to slide into nickel a little bit more this year. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I like fitting in the run game a little bit more than that corner or safety even. So I'm pretty excited about it.
And then a little bit of wide receiver then as well.
Yeah, too? It's like a wide receiver tight end.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. You were down at the Army All-American Bowl Combine. Rattle off a couple of those numbers and just tell us a little bit about how you feel like you performed that day.
A 4.51 laser 40, that's 0.11 seconds faster than 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my L drill has improved from 7.5 to 7.19. So, just they're putting in extra work, and it really, it's really nice to see it pay off.
I was going to say you're a member of Top Speed with Coach Cash and Coach Potts. Let's give them some free advertising here. How much have they helped you in those areas?
I said I improved my 40 in 2 months, and those 2 months is when I started Top Speed now. So, obviously the results, they speak for themselves. So.
With recruiting, I know you hit up a couple camps, right? Iowa State.
I went to KU, K-State, North Dakota State, and Mizzou.
North Dakota State is who I was thinking of. I said Iowa State. What did you learn at those camps, and were there any coaches that were kind of telling you, hey, you're on our radar, this is what we want to see?
I feel like KU, they were talking about preferred walk-on, and North Dakota State a little bit too. They had me do some extra testing there, but these camps really helped me out on my one-on-one defense, especially in the slot. I hadn't had a lot of practice, so those camps you get a lot of reps, especially at North Dakota State, KU gave me a lot of reps. So
most of the schools, do they see you kind of in the same position in college, or are they talking to you about different stuff maybe?
Yeah, a lot of them are saying safety, linebacker, nickel, kind of not really corner, which I makes sense to me. And sure. At the combine, I was just they were talking about even tight end and receivers. So
is there a game plan that you have in terms of recruiting? Is it take it as long as it needs to? Is it kind of hoping these first 3 or 4 games kind of get you an offer that you're looking for?
Yeah, talking to especially Cash at Top Speed, he's he's helping me out, telling me to play good these first 4 games, put film out, get a lot of tackles. So I'm gonna wait till after the season played out so I can really focus on helping my guys win. But I'll be putting out film.
One of the last things for me is you come from an athletic family. Your brother is a tremendous pitcher, I believe, right?
Pitcher and shortstop. He's going to Mizzou to play two-way.
What have you kind of taken from him in terms of like how to handle recruiting, even if it's from a baseball standpoint?
Well, actually, both of us were getting recruited for baseball, and obviously him a little bit more. But the way he handled it was really mature. Like he wasn't rude to any schools. He answered every call, and he told him politely if he wasn't interested, and he's helped me with this, like how to respond to coaches, how to email. So he's been a lot of help.
I would imagine competition is pretty fierce in your household.
Yeah, everything's competition.
And then last question for me, what are your guys' expectations for this year? Like, what are your goals?
Win a state championship is always the goal. Last few years we've really been, we've been on the edge of it, and we just haven't been able to get it done. And we got a disciplined group of seniors that have been pushing us really hard, so we think we can go all the way this year.
How about one more promo for yourself, man? Any coaches that are watching our show today, listening to this podcast, why Benji Burton?
I like to hit, and I fly around the field, so that's
all you need to know.
That's
and a
who
competitor.
I am. Yep. Play with a lot of energy.
With athletic numbers like that and football to boot, Burton is a player to watch this fall. That should do it for this week's episode of the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. Thanks for following along. If you enjoyed what you saw or heard, leave us a comment or review, like this video, subscribe here on YouTube, or hit us with a 5-star rating if you're listening on an audio platform. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.
Tune in next week.